iPOB, brainwashed obsession drives Nigeria's futile war to silence Biafra. The act of devotion and vigorous support for your country is called patriotism. Simply put, patriotism is the downstream of nationalism. Nationalism is the identification and acceptance of your country and the pursuit of her interests. It then follows that a patriot is first a nationalist. For one to be a patriot and devoted, one must first accept and identify with that nation. For a person to identify with a nation means to possess an interconnectivity with the nation. After all, a nation is nothing more than a large body of people united by common history, culture, language, etc., inhabiting a territory or country. A nation or country must therefore be fair, just, and equitable to the inhabitants. A leadership of a sovereign nation would always strive to be fair, just, and equitable to all, regardless of the situation. This is because leadership is a contractual transaction with the citizens. A homegrown leadership that is localized would never subject the citizens to abuse and violence because of the common heritage. This cannot be said of Nigeria. A country whose government and security architecture continues to display and cosplay a colonial behavior is far from being a nation. Surely, if a country's leadership engages in actions that endangers the safety of the citizens, such a country is not a nationhood. The Nigerian government continues to deliberately and inorganically export terrorism to Biafra land, implement socio-economic policies obnoxious and detrimental to Biafrans, eastern Nigeria. Perhaps this subjugating mentality is due to the brainwash inherited from the colonial era and transferred to successive leadership designed to benefit anyone but the indigenous population. Nigeria, therefore, was never created to serve as anything other than a business outlet to satisfy an extractive value chain. This value chain is sequel to a foreign policy document designating Africa solely as a source of raw material by the colonial beneficiaries that included the United States of America working through proxies such as the United Kingdom, UK. The Nigerian government has shown nothing but raw brute force in solving the self-determination question. A simple issue that a nationalistic government will solve through diplomacy, dialogue, and political settlement has witnessed artificial insecurity, enforced disappearance, unprovoked murder of iPOB members in different locations, extraordinary rendition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of iPOB, prolonged illegal incarceration of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and iPOB members, illegal proscription of iPOB, etc. This is because the colonial enablers of Nigerian government have brainwashed them to obsessively believe that such inhumane and unpatriotic method is best suited for a so-called compatriot. How foolish and condescending. In contrast, the indisputable difference between the Confederation of Sahel States (CSS) of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali is glaring for all to see. The nationalistic and patriotic cohesion between the governments of these nations and their citizens, in comparison to the despotic governments under colonial France, is a lesson in history. The commitment of citizens towards nation-building is spontaneous under present circumstance. This is because there is mutual connection and shared culture. This is the egregious dichotomy between Biafrans and Nigerians. The division instilled in other indigenous tribes in Nigeria through a colonial construct makes peaceful cohabitation impossible. An average Yoruba or Fulani child, for example, has been trained to hate his Biafran counterpart. This disconnection fuels division and is rooted in colonial brainwashed obsession. In comparison, the indigenous people of Biafra, iPOB, seeks to restore the sovereign nation of Biafra through a referendum because of deep connection to motherland that is simply a function of patriotic nationalism. Family Writers Press International.